Hey, welcome into another episode of the Fat Guy Podcast. I am the Fat Guy. Most people just call me Brett. Thanks for listening today. Follow me on social media. Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. The username is Fat Guy Podcast on all of those. You get more updates there. Obviously, pictures don't come through on a podcast. And one of my resolutions for 2019 not only is to knock out an enormous amount of weight and be really happy with where I am mentally, physically, emotionally, all that stuff. But it's to do better on social media. So I actually have a social media posting plan I hope to start following as of this week. It should be organized and hopefully be helpful to you, people that stop by and visit it, hoping to find inspiration or information or something like that. So check us out there. And by all means, if you haven't subscribed to the podcast, make sure you do. That way you don't miss an episode. You never know when the next episode might be the one you've been waiting to hear. You know, maybe 3 of them that you're like, yeah, that's nice. But and then the next one's like, boom, oh, that was just the information I needed. So if you subscribe, that helps a lot. We're available pretty much wherever you get podcasts, but I think most people get theirs from Apple Podcasts. Just search for Fat Guy Podcast. Of course, if you're not into any of that, you want to do it the old-fashioned way, you just need to bookmark the website, thefatguypodcast.com. So today we're going to be talking a little bit about fasting. So my overall plan for 2019 is to continue to be keto or mostly keto like I have been ever since I discovered keto, because if you're obese, especially hugely obese, but pretty much any level of obese, you have metabolic issues. That's why keto is the best. And trust me, I've tried every diet, everything from raw vegan to cooked vegan to, pills, potions, and powders, and, eat less, move more. And God, I remember like 2 years ago or 2.5 years ago or something, I was killing myself at the track every day and walking, and then I started jogging and injured myself. All kind of craziness I've tried. Nothing is more powerful than keto. There's only one thing more powerful than keto, and that's combining keto with fasting. It is a huge 1-2 punch. As I am talking to you right now, recording this podcast, I am about 49 and a half hours into a fast. And so I thought I would talk about, what's it like to not eat for 2 days? What's it like? So there's 2 groups of people I'm going to talk to. If you're a keto person, I'm going to talk to you first. And if you're not a keto person, you're somebody that's still, you're drinking sweetened drinks like sweet teas and sodas, and you're still eating bread and pastas, or, but you've been trying to limit your calories or lose weight in some kind of way like that, I'll address you second, okay? Because it's 2 different things. So if you're keto and you've cut out the sweetened drinks or stuff, fasting is going to be pretty easy for you. I'm just going to be honest with you. If you've been keto for any length of time, you've already trained your body to live off the fat stores you have. You're going to stop eating, and really the only hunger you're going to experience is the ghrelin signaling. So ghrelin kicks in at periodic intervals based on around the times you normally eat anyway, and it's going to pop up around that time and tell you you're hungry. But if you wait a little bit, it's going to pass and it's going to be fine. You're not probably going to experience anything too extreme. The first day will be the worst, starting at around probably the 18th hour or so, going through the 24th, 25th, 26th hour. So if you can plan to be coming up on around 18 hours near bedtime, you'll sleep through the worst of it. The second day, you may have a moment of slightly roughness or something, but for the most part, you're going to be fine. There really is nothing to it. So if you're a keto person and you're terrified of fasting, all I can say is just jump in and try it, Just jump in and try it. And if you're already intermittent fasting, where you're doing like 16-8, so where you eat an 8-hour window and then you don't eat for 16, if you want to kind of ramp up to trying fasting, go to 23-1 and do that for a few days, fast for 23 hours and then have a meal every day in a 1-hour window. That pretty much puts you halfway there. That essentially puts you halfway to 48. So you only have to go to one more day. So it's really, the leap is nothing. Now, what's it like if you're a person who's on, you're just an eat less, move more kind of person, and you've bought into this hype that if you're obese, that you can still eat all the food you love, you just need to eat less of them and count your calories and move a little bit more and you'll be fine. which is complete BS, by the way. Nevertheless, you're here, and I want to answer the question about fasting for you. So fasting will absolutely help you, but it's going to be super hard for you for a lot of reasons. One, your body's going to be full of glycogen stores, which is the way your body stores sugar, and that's going to have to deplete. And until it depletes, you're going to be plagued with cravings. And then when it eventually does replete, so there's none left, you're going to be really slammed with cravings because your body isn't trained to live off its fat stores yet. And so it's going to have to make a clunky transition to fat, which it will do, but it just won't be smooth. Depending on how many carbs and sugar you do eat every day, you may not even replenish that sugar in 2 days. It depends on how much moving and exercising you do. If you're a sedentary person, heck, if you eat enough carbs before you start fasting, if you're a high carb eater and you're a really sedentary person, you may not even deplete your glycogen stores in the 48 hours, which means you're going to be plagued with cravings the entire time. Honestly, it's going to be hell for you. Add to that, if you're a soda drinker, that's going to add to the sugar withdrawal symptoms, and you're going to, on top of that, you're going to be have added caffeine withdrawal. So you're going to be going through caffeine withdrawal. You're going to be going through sugar withdrawal and sugar cravings, and it's just not going to be good for you. It's going to be hard. Does that mean you shouldn't do it? No, absolutely not. You should still do it. And you should move to a lower carb lifestyle. It was specifically a keto lifestyle, but at least low carb, man. Cut the bread out and cut the sweetened drinks out and cut the pasta out, if nothing else. So there's your two different experiences. Now, like I said, I'm around 49, I guess, and a half hours now. I'm shooting for 96. That's what I did last week. I went 96. Then I had one meal. It was a small meal. I think it was around 800 calories. And then I went another 24 hours without eating again. So I essentially fasted 5 days in a row with one small meal at the end of the fourth day. And I felt amazing. And just quickly, people keep asking about why do you fast? Well, there's so many reasons to fast. I can't get into all of them in this podcast because I don't want the podcast to be too long. But it's not just weight loss benefits. It's something called autophagy, which cleans up dead and clunky cells that don't work right anymore. It's one of the main ways you can keep these dysfunctional cells, these damaged DNA cells that might eventually turn into cancer. Once you get into this autophagy state, your body starts consuming them, eating them, and recycling them, so it'll prevent them. I mean, it's just, I could go on and on the list of the benefits of fasting. But as it relates to weight loss, it gives you so much control. Like, you go through life every day trying to battle and fight and control what you eat and all this kind of stuff. Once you fast for 3 days or 4 days or whatever, and you come back to eating again, you have so much control because you just went through 3 or 4 days of eating nothing. And so suddenly, now you're eating, and picking what you eat is so easy. First of all, you've depleted your glycogen. You've gotten your ghrelin and leptin levels back in check. Your insulin level has fallen, and it's going to work just a tad better than it did before the fast. So you have a lot of things working for you physically and mentally and emotionally, and you're just going to be in complete control. And you'll find the next 2-3 days of you eating will be a breeze for you to eat right, whether that be keto or whatever you're trying to do. And I'm going to tell you, my fast last week completely reversed this downward spiral that I had been on forever. And I came off of a super high carb binge weekend that I was completely ashamed and embarrassed about, where when I came home Saturday night from playing poker, I stopped at the convenience store. I got one of those big bags of those Little Debbie. They're not Little Debbie, but you've seen the bags of donuts. They're they're bigger than a sandwich bag, but I don't know, there's probably 25 donuts in there. I ate a bag of those. Then I ate one of the smaller 6-packs of donuts. Then I had a double-decker fudge round. I had a double-decker oatmeal cream pie. And then I had 2 coffee cakes. And I had a pint of chocolate milk. I want to say I had something else. Oh, Nutter Butter. Not the crackers, they're like crispy, chocolatey, wafery type things. What are those things called? Nutty Buddies or something. It was an insane amount of sugar and carbs. And But I knew Sunday I was hitting it, man, and I did. I did get up and eat lunch on Sunday, and then I was done, and I went into my fasting, and it was so hard. But I'm going to tell you something. Once I got that sugar purged out and got the glycogen stores down and got into around day 3 or so, I started hitting my stride, and day 4 and day 5 were amazing, and then the weekend was perfect. I mean, I was back in the poker room. I was playing poker, which is generally a weak spot for me when I'm not at the top of my game because there's food everywhere and I want all of it. Food was not an issue for me. I ate when I was hungry, and when I did eat, I ate something that I should be eating, kept it keto, didn't overeat, didn't binge, didn't have psychological, mental, emotional, physiological issues with food. It was just amazing. And then Sunday, I jumped right back into a fast again. So, I mean, the benefits of fasting are insane. And I've addressed this in other podcasts, but I'm going to address it again. Fasting is not starving. There's a big difference between starving and fasting. Starving means you're already a skinny, emaciated person, and you have hardly no body fat, and you can't get access to food. And so your body has to start catabolizing itself. And it has to start eating its own muscle, and it'll even start eating your own organs and stuff. If you're a big fat person and you got fat stores, you have Big Macs and Chinese food and barbecue ribs and hamburgers and you got all that stuff stored on you. Okay? So all that has to happen is for you to go without food long enough for your insulin level to fall to a certain level. And the insulin is the key that unlocks the fat storage or fat burning mode. And once it drops to an low enough level, your body will switch over to drawing on your fat reserves. That's why you have fat. That's the way your body was designed to work. That's why, like humans collecting fat is not a defect in the human system. That's the way the human system was designed. It was so that in times of feast, you could eat a lot, you'd store a little fat, and then in times of famine, when there was no food, your body could live off the reserves that you built up during the times of feasting. So there's food there. You're not going to starve. You're going to be fine. So until you get past the third day or so, I mean, pretty much anybody can do that. Now, I'm not a doctor. You should consult with your doctor. I want to put that disclaimer out there, but that's generally true. Once you get into a little bit longer fast, like 4, 5, 6, 7 days, electrolytes could potentially be an issue. You want to make sure you're getting some, sodium chloride, which is salt, preferably not table salt, although table salt will work. You can buy some sodium chloride tablets, or you can use pink Himalayan sea salt, in some water or something, and make sure you're getting you some potassium, especially if you're into the 5th, 6th, 7th day, and some magnesium too. You might want to take you a magnesium citrate pill to make sure that's up a little bit. So these things, first of all, that'll make you feel better, but second, it'll keep your electrolytes up, which will keep your energy up, and you'll feel good. But nevertheless, most of you are not even going to consider fasting that long. You're blown away. If you're listening to this, you're probably blown away at the idea of going 2 days without food. I get messages from people that are blown away at the idea that you can go 1 day without food, and I'm like, do you realize that that's how all of our ancestors lived? Like, food was scarce. That's just how they lived. Like, that's a great sign of what a society we live in now, to where we think that if we don't eat 6 times a day, something has gone horribly awry. And that is not the way our bodies were designed, and that's why we're all fat. I mean, the more I learn about obesity, and look, I've made this has become my real life master's degree. I study everything I can study about obesity and weight loss. And there's 2 things I've discovered. One, it's that most of the food we eat is not actually food. It's some kind of high carb, no fiber, contrived in a warehouse factory somewhere using machines some of us can't even understand, crap, garbage that we put in our body, and it continues to flood us with a deadly, highly addictive substance called sugar, which is not food. Sugar is not a food. Make no mistake about it. Sugar is not a food. Processed sugar isn't. That's number 1. And number 2 is that food is so abundant that even the poorest among us eat several times a day. And by several, I mean 3, 4, 5, 6. You're like, oh, God, I don't eat 6 times a day. Well, if you are taking an opportunity to dump calories into your body, that's eating. Where even if that's just grabbing a 16 or 20 ounce Coca-Cola and drinking it. That's 140 to 200 calories, depending on the size. I mean, that's a small meal. That's a meal you just consumed. And the worst meal possible, it's liquid sugar going straight into your bloodstream. So if you get up and you have breakfast, and then you have some kind of drink or something between breakfast and lunch, or you have a snack, then you have lunch, then you just have some kind of drink or snack between lunch and dinner, and then you have dinner, then you have some kind of bedtime. Suddenly you've had 6 meals that day. Our ancestors never had 6 meals a day. They were lucky to get 2 meals a day, lunch and dinner. Our ancestors, up until 100, 150 years ago, there was no breakfast. You didn't break your fast until around noon. You got up before daylight and you were out working and you busted your hump till noon, and then hopefully your wife or kid or whoever you had in charge of cooking had cooked you something for lunch. So the human body is not designed to eat that much. So we're eating stuff that isn't actually food. It's just it's drugged up. It's just crap invented in a laboratory that's pumped up full of a highly addictive drug called sugar. And secondarily, we eat all day. So you got to change to real food, and then you got to eat. Don't eat all day. That's the only 2 secrets to it. Well, what is real food? That's what's on the outside perimeter of your grocery store. So that's everything pretty much in the meat section. It's pretty much your real cheeses and your butter and sour cream and stuff in the dairy section. And it is your green produce in the produce section. This excludes potatoes. It excludes carrots. It excludes corn. It excludes fruits. You can occasionally work in some berries like blackberries, raspberries, strawberries, or maybe some blueberries. Blueberries being the worst out of the 4 in terms of carbs. Maybe a couple times a week in very limited amounts. But pretty much you stick to the real foods. And, eggs, of course, is in there. Left eggs out. And that's it. And then you don't eat all day. Eat once or twice a day. Or if you're in an extreme situation where you need to repair and reverse, you have to uneat all the meals that you ate. Somebody's like, man, you can't uneat what you ate. Sure you can. Spend an equal amount of hours not eating as you spent eating before, and you are uneating. You're erasing everything that you have stored. It's like if you were walking down the road and you kept throwing cabbages into the back of a trailer, and the trailer got so full and overloaded with cabbages you could hardly pull it, and the tires were bursting at the seams and they were about to pop, and it was so heavy you couldn't hardly make it go. And the question would be, how do I reverse such a situation? Well, you'd start doing the opposite. Instead of throwing cabbages on, you would start throwing cabbages off. And so how do you do that? Well, you go long periods of time without adding any cabbages, and you throw what cabbages is in there off. So what does that equate to in terms of eating? Well, you go long terms of time without eating, and then your body's metabolism will throw the cabbages off. That's burning the energy. So you go long times without eating, and then your body, in its natural state of burning energy, consume the cabbages that are already in the trailer. We got off of the deep end there, didn't we? All right, the podcast has gone longer than I thought it would today. That's what it's like to go 24 hours without food. You can do it. The way you're raised, the stuff they tell you on TV, the horrible nutritional advice that you get at school, that you get from your doctor, all tells you otherwise. They're all full of crap. That's why we're all fat. If they were all right, we would be thin. If all these people were right about what they were telling us, we'd all be thin. We cut out the saturated fat. We went to eating 6 times a day. We did all these things they told us to do. We tried to move more. We did all this crap, and we got fatter and fatter and fatter. If everything they told you was right, we'd all be thin as rails, but we're not. We're all so fat we can barely move. Their advice is wrong. What our great ancestors did is right. When they had the green beans out in the garden, and they had the mustard greens and collard greens out in the garden, and they had the bacon and the bacon fat that they got from the pig, and they had the whole full fat milk that they drink, not crap like you see in the store now, but they'd make the cream out of it, and they'd make the butter out of it, and that's pretty much what they lived off of, and they were all thin, and they were fine. That's how we're supposed to eat. And they didn't have enough of it to eat 6 times a day. They only had enough of it to eat once or twice a day. So they ate once or twice a day. And they were lean, and they had strong muscle mass, and they were healthy. If they had the healthcare system that we have today and the ability to intervene when things go wrong like we have today, those people would have lived to be 150. But unfortunately, they didn't have, and then they didn't have access to things like vaccines and stuff. So they were dying to polio and measles and smallpox and all this crazy stuff that we don't have to worry about anymore. If they'd have had all that at their disposal and had ate the diet that they were eating, then they would have lived to be 200 years old. And now we have all the medical advancements as far as the vaccines and disease prevention and all this kind of stuff, but we got the food all wrong, so we're still killing ourselves. All right, guys, subscribe to us on the social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. It's Fat Guy Podcast. The website is The Fat Guy Podcast. Make sure you subscribe to this show. I really appreciate it. Share it with a friend if you think it'll help. Appreciate you so much.